Hello, I'm Roly. I'm a custodian of this beautiful woodland in the heart of Derbyshire. And this is video blog 132. Today I want to speak about something that quietly moves through the year. Something most of us recognize but few of us truly pause to understand. And that is Easter. Now, at first glance, Easter appears to be just another date in the calendar. Something that arrives, is marked, then passes. But it isn't fixed in a way that Christmas is fixed. It doesn't sit still, it drifts, it shifts, and in that movement there is something deeply important because Easter is not set by our human calendars alone. It is set by the sky, by the turning of the earth, by the balance of light and dark, and by the quiet, patient pull of the moon. Easter comes on the first Sunday after the first full moon, following the spring equinox, and when you sit with that for a moment, you begin to feel that this is not just a date. It is an alignment. First comes the equinox, that moment in spring when day and night stand in perfect balance, a brief stillness in the turning of a year. And then, after that balance has been reached, the moon begins to grow slowly, steadily, night by night, until it reaches its fullness, and only then, after both balance and fullness have revealed themselves, does Easter arrive. It is not imposed, it is revealed. If you spend enough time in a woodland, you begin to recognize the same pattern unfolding all around you. Nothing here is rushed. The light does not return all at once. It lengthens gradually, almost perfectly at first, and the wooden floor begins to stir in response. You notice the first small awakenings, wood and an anemone opening quietly to the light, wild garlic pushing through the soil, the early green of life returning before the canopy above has even begun to close. And just like Easter, these things do not happen on a fixed date. They happen when the conditions are right, when the balance has shifted enough to allow something new to emerge. There is something else woven into this as well, something older than the way we often speak about it. Easter has long been connected to Passover, to lunar cycles, to the idea of crossing over, of release, of something coming to the end, so that something else can begin. And within the Christian tradition, it becomes the story of resurrection, of life, returning where it seemed absent. But if you step back from the structure of the story and simply look at the land around you, you realize that this story is not confined to scripture. It is happening everywhere. It is happening beneath your feet, in the soil, in the roots, in the unseen work of decay and renewal. That never truly stops. The woodland teaches this without words. Renewal is not a single moment. It is not a sudden event. It is a process. The old does not simply disappear. It softens. It breaks down. It becomes something else. Leaf litter turns to soil. Fallen branches return to the earth. And from that quiet transformation, new life emerges. Nothing is wasted, nothing is horrid. Everything belongs to the cycle. And so Easter, in its truest sense, is not just a day marked on a calendar. It is a threshold, a crossing point between what has been and what is becoming. There is a tendency in the modern world to want to fix things, to make them predictable, to place them neatly into defined spaces so that they can be managed and controlled. And even Easter has not been immune to this. There has been attempts to fix it to a particular Sunday in April, to remove its movement, to make it more convenient. But in doing so, something essential is lost, because Easter was never meant to be convenient. It was meant to be observed, to be waited for, to be recognized when the conditions themselves declare its arrival. Out here in the woodland, you do not need a calendar to tell you that something has changed. You feel it, you notice it in a way the light falls differently between the trees, in the sound of birds returning and filling the space that was once quiet, in the subtle shift in the air itself, from stillness to movement, from holding to unfolding. And that perhaps is what Easter really is. Not just a date, but a recognition that something has turned, that a threshold has been crossed, and that life is beginning again in ways both seen and unseen. So, as I sit here today in a woodland, I'm not thinking about Easter as a fixed point in time. I'm thinking about it as a moment of alignment between light and dark, between earth and sky, between what has passed and what is quietly beginning to rise again. And maybe that is the invitation it offers us, not simply to mark the day and move on, but to pause long enough to notice the change, to feel it, to recognize that renewal does not arrive on demand. It comes in its own time, in its own way, and when it does, it is unmistakable. So I do hope you enjoyed this segment of Custodians of the Woodland, and I do hope to see you again.